Welcome to Why We Work with your host, Brian V, as he speaks to people like you from all over the world, as we together dive deeper into our motivations, struggles, joys, seemingly missteps, hopes, warnings, and advice, which will be an encouragement to us all to get up, get going, and keep on working. Working is tough, but working is good. Now here is your host to Why We Work, Brian V. This is Brian V at Why We Work, and I have the great pleasure of being here with Ricardo Camargo. Thank you, sir, for coming here and being gracious and kind for us to start over again.
Yeah, no problem.
Before we start, Ricardo, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you began your journey in work?
Okay, so I'm from Brazil, and I currently live in New York City for like 5.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in college, I was about 19, 20, I'm not sure exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got my first job. I was working at this ad agency. I was just this I was like an intern assistant, so I would help with whatever they needed. If they
Was
needed,
this what you were taking in college as well? Was this in line what you were hoping to do?
uh, at that time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I had a friend that was working on that agency, and he said, "Hey, we're looking for an intern." He was also an intern.
Yeah.
Said, "We're looking for an intern." Then I was like, "All right, I can use some extra money." So yeah, so that was my first job. I was there for about 6 months, and then I quit because I really hated it.
What was your motivation to start? Because a moment ago I asked you and you said in Brazil, that's kind of normal, 19, 20 in university age, just like here in Korea, to start your job or your work journey. What was your motivation to start to get that first job?
Well, first it was good to have some extra money,
Yeah.
right? And I was already an adult, and I felt bad living off my parents,
Yeah.
And then I was like, I gotta start exploring my options because I need to start a career somewhere. So to me, it made sense to start working. I felt very lucky, because I know that not everybody can have their parents supporting them
Yeah.
after they're 18 years old or even before that.
So after 6 months, you quit. So did you have a plan before you quit, or you just said, I'm done?
Yeah, I said, I'm done. I didn't really like my boss at
Yeah.
all.
Mm-hmm.
She was always changing her mind last minute. And
What kind of duties were you doing in this job? Did you have any sort of creative ability, or
no,
what were you
no,
doing?
I was basically an assistant. So everything that they needed done, oh, we're gonna film whatever, and we need some kind of prop for it.
Ricardo,
So,
go get the prop.
so they would send me, and I had to do whatever it took to get that prop.
A gopher.
Sometimes
In
sometimes it
English,
was
we say a gopher. Yeah, a gopher
yeah,
means go get this, go get that, go get this.
yeah.
And you weren't
Then
having it.
then I was like, you know what? Some people will be happy to do this in
But
my
not me.
place, but I'm not gonna do it. So then I quit.
So how long were you into school by then, or were you just starting your first year?
I was in my, I think, second semester. I
Okay.
don't know, man. It was
Yeah.
so long ago.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Oh, you're young. It wasn't that long ago.
I'm 41 now.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little older, 43.
Oh, same thing.
It's not
So
it wasn't that long ago, because if it was long ago for you, it was really long for me. Did you get another job in college?
I did. So a few months after that, I started working for the subway company
Okay.
because my dad worked there his whole life. He's an engineer. So And then I was like, it's a really good company,
Mm-hmm.
stable. Maybe you should try working there. So I went for this. They were hiring for interns, and then I went there, but I didn't tell anybody who my dad was.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I want to do this for
On my
myself,
own. Yeah.
on my own. So only after I got hired, when I went to meet my boss, that he actually found out that he knew my dad.
Your picture was on your dad's desk or something. Hey, I
Yeah,
know you.
yeah. So yeah, but so and I was working in the budget department
Yeah,
because I was studying business in school.
yeah.
So and I kind of liked it. I had a great time. I was there for 2 years, but I was almost done with college, and I just wanted to leave for a while. I wanted to get away from everybody and everything.
Did you, before you get to where you went, did you have any, whether pleasant or not, pressure from your dad to get into his business? Did he
No,
kind of want you to encourage you or say, hey, I can help you if you ever choose to go down this path? Did he give
no.
nudges or hints? No, not at all. He let you free to do what you wanted to
Yeah,
do.
I just said if you want, they're gonna start a hiring process now.
Hmm.
So if you're interested, that might be something that you could do. And I really liked it. It was a great company, and yeah, everybody was really nice, respectful. Everybody got the job done, and I feel like I learned a lot there.
When
But
did you
then,
get, go ahead, go ahead.
no, sorry, go ahead.
When did you get the itch to want to leave?
When I when I realized that I was gonna graduate from college, and then I was like, okay, so now real life is gonna start. So I want to do something different before real life starts. So that's the first time that I came to the US.
Did you know anyone else who had done something similar?
Yeah, a guy from my class in college. We took like I think 2 classes together, and he I don't know how to say in English. I'm sorry. He just paused college for like 6 months.
Oh, he paused. He took a hiatus.
Exactly.
Yeah,
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 he
yeah, 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 yeah.
took a hiatus, and he came to the US for 6 months just
Yeah.
to do whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So he told me, about it, and then I kept thinking about that, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna do that too. So after I graduated from college, I went to Colorado, a town called Winter Park,
Okay.
and I spent 5 6 months there, and it was amazing. I did all kinds of jobs. I was like a busser. I used to shovel snow.
Yeah.
I worked in maintenance, housekeeping,
Yeah.
but I went snowboarding 3 4 times a week. Met a
Beautiful
bunch.
state. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Met a bunch of cool people, and it was just what I needed before coming back, you know, home and starting life for real.
So you went back to Brazil then?
Yeah,
And was that was part of the plan the whole time
yeah,
or
yeah.
okay. So how long did you stay and what did you do when you went back?
To Brazil.
Yes.
So I came back and I stayed pretty much 7 or 8 years.
What did you do?
Bunch of office jobs,
And
but
they
they
never
were
cut it.
they were never good enough for me. Never, never. I always hated everything about it. My last office job, I was working for this linen company. I was doing all the exporting.
Yeah.
So I was actually doing good money, steady job. But every morning when I woke up, I just wanted to scream. It was terrible. Wearing a suit and a tie. Who needs that? Honestly,
Some
even
people do, but some people definitely
no,
don't.
I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. I meant
Yeah.
like, how can you make people wear that to work?
Mm-hmm.
Why? I don't get it. Especially in Brazil, it's so hot.
I know. I live in a hot city too, and it's the
Oh my
worst
God,
thing in the world.
brutal, brutal. So yeah, I hated everything, everything. So that was 2005, 2005, 2006, something like that. And I always played guitar,
Yeah,
you
so I
know.
think we would probably have to go back to
So,
your music. When did you pick up an instrument? When, because obviously we'll get into it, but I know you have a talent just by what I've experienced. When did you start playing music?
I s- so I started playing guitar when I was in high school.
That's it?
Yeah, my freshman year in high school.
No
That's
musical experience prior to that?
no.
That's pretty amazing.
And it's funny because the way I started playing playing guitar was super weird. My mom has a friend, and she she's not a palm reader, but somehow she thinks that she can tell you
Your
what to do
future? Yeah.
with your life, you know. And I always thought it was bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I was like, you know what? I'll go. Maybe she can tell me something interesting. And this woman told me, you have a natural talent for instruments. Do you play anything? I said, no, I don't play anything. And then I left there, and she told me I was gonna marry a foreign woman, which happened, and we get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, maybe I should start playing something. And then and
And
then
looking in the single ads in the porn papers.
and then I got this really cheap acoustic guitar,
Yeah.
and I just started to I was trying to learn to play the songs that I liked, and then I never stopped. And
That's
that
so funny because I'm going to ask you to plug yourself later, but like if when you go to see this gentleman play, you have a really good the angle of which you show yourself playing the guitar, I would think that you've been playing your whole life. And I mean into high school is not many years after starting life, but
if
he's
you think
really
about it,
talented. You're really
it's
talented.
no, but if you think about it, I was 14, 13, 14, I don't even know. So that's like 20, 26 years. That's a lot
Mhm.
of time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I never studied guitar. I The only thing I did was I tried to play the songs that I liked, and that's what I still do to this day. I don't know any scales. I don't know the modes, the Greek modes, the whatever modes. I don't know anything.
I don't know the whatever nor do I, by the way, but it's funny.
I don't know.
I don't know any of that stuff,
I
but you're so talented. Amazing.
Thank you. I don't practice. I just like to learn the songs that I like,
You
and
just like
that's
to
it.
play the guitar.
Yeah, and sometimes I try to I write some original songs,
Hmm.
but it's really hard for me because I have no theory. I don't know anything about theory.
Yeah.
So I have to sing the solo, and then I have to try to recreate what I sang. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's all foreign to me, and I know how hard it must be to do it, but
Yeah.
you at least have half the skill, right? Or some percentage of it, and you can work with it.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I I
No,
know,
go
I
ahead.
know that I know that it's really good if you know the theory and the scales and everything. I should know, but I'm just that lazy when it comes about to learning that. And it was never my goal to be this excellent musician or anything. So to me, I'm perfectly fine with where I am.
So how did you end your journey in Brazil and then decide To America I go.
Okay, so I have to go back a little bit before that
Go ahead.
to explain everything.
Yeah.
So I quit my job at the linen company, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do something with music, because I've been playing guitar at that point for a little over 10 years. I used to record a bunch. I bought this like a portable studio thing.
Yeah.
So I used to record and say maybe I could do something with that. And in Brazil at that time, you couldn't go to college for anything like that. There was no college for music or anything like that. For like audio engineering,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
couldn't study that. So I took this crappy course. It was like a 6-month course, but I was finally happy. You know, after so many years working and studying things that I hated, I was finally happy. You know, so when I finished the course, I met a bunch of nice people, a bunch of cool people, people that were most people were already working in some studio or venue or something,
Mm-hmm.
but they just wanted to learn more. You know what I mean?
Just a desire, a hunger.
Exactly. So I made friends with all these people, and then I just started showing up where they worked. So I worked at this studio for free
Yeah.
for like 4 or 5 months. I didn't know anything. I didn't even, I didn't even know how to coil a cable. You know, some people that I work with still don't know how to coil a cable.
But the difference was you were willing to learn,
Exactly.
and you
And
had a joy probably in doing it.
uh, and I worked extra hard because I was already older than everybody else. Because I saw these kids, 17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
they already knew so much, and I was 10 times older than them almost. And I was like, I gotta make up for it.
Yeah.
And then, I started working with like studios. I worked in a lot of dubbing studios. So I got all these like movies in English and then
Mm-hmm.
translate to Portuguese and stuff.
Yeah.
And I started working as the sound guy for my friend. He had a group, like a samba group,
Yeah.
and I started working with them. They were like playing all over. The first 2, 3 gigs I did were a disaster.
So
Totally.
you stepped up on stage with them?
No, I would like set up everything, cable,
Okay.
my thing, and then mix the show live.
Okay.
The first 2 times was terrible, total disaster. Like feedback everywhere. You couldn't hear anything. It was so
What are all these buttons?
yeah. Well, I started to get better,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and after like a year and a half, I went to work for this venue, like a big venue in São
Mm-hmm.
Paulo, my city. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because then I saw a different pace. Because before, when I was working with my friend, I would go with the band, you set up, sound check, they play, you take it down, that's it. But in this venue, we had stuff going on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you had it was a huge place. So you had like an outdoor area, a pool. It's like a city center, something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
So the place stayed. Now you could learn other aspects of the music industry.
Yeah, but you had so much going on. So I had to set up a band by the pool, and then you had a guy doing storytelling for the kids at the library. But then I also had to do the sound check in the main venue because there was going to be a huge band playing there at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned to pick up my pace and think fast. And I was there for maybe 6 months. And a guy working there with me, and somehow I became the supervisor. I don't know how that happened. So it was good
That's
because
great.
I was telling everybody what to do. Okay, so you go take care of the kids.
6
Go set
months
up
later.
you go set up the band in the pool, and you are gonna help me with the sound check in the main venue. So I was like delegating to everybody, but I still
What
had to go and do it myself too.
What did your parent? And I think I'm guessing what I know the answer is, but what did your parents say to this new Ricardo who was going in business? He was going to do this, maybe follow in Papa's path. You go off to the States, you come back, you try different industries, and now you're in music full blown and now a supervisor. What?
Oh yeah. At first when I told them that I wanted to work with music, it was like telling them that I had cancer or you know.
The jaw hit the ground.
Yeah, like my dad engineer, my mom my mom psychologist, my brother a doctor, and me who working with music.
You can say,
You know,
Mom, you brought me to the lady with the cards.
yeah,
It was
with
your
those
friend,
colors.
Mom.
Yeah, but when they saw that I was really getting into it, and then I was working my ass off, they're like, okay, you're on the right path.
How was your
And
music coming along during this time? Or were you kind of not doing that as much?
I don't think I was doing that. I'm always like off and on with music.
Hmm.
Sometimes I play for 10 hours a day, and then I go like 3 months without touching the guitar.
Hmm.
So it comes and goes. And then a guy that was working with me at that venue, he told me that he went for an interview to work on a cruise ship doing sound, but but he didn't get it because he didn't speak English, right? Then I was like, all right, I do speak English. So
You're like, okay, good story. I
I
need to go.
do. And so the thing is, so this place is maintained by the city, right? So it's like public. So they can hire you. You gotta wait for when they open spots, and then you gotta go and you have a test and
Hmm.
stuff, you know. And they were not gonna open any tests soon. So my contract there ended, and then I spoke to this guy. Say, hey, can you give me the email or phone number for that cruise ship thing? And he did. So I sent an email, and the guy wrote me back saying, hey, I need your CV today because today is the last day
Wow.
for that, for
The cutoff period.
yeah, yeah. So send my resume, got a call back, had a phone interview, then I had two interviews in person. Then the final interview was with the head of the sound for it was a Royal Caribbean International.
Okay.
So the head of all the audio and lighting and entertainment called me. So we had a phone interview, and then I got the job. And then I went.
Now he's gone on a cruise.
Then was October of 2009.
Yeah.
I boarded my first ship, the Majesty of the Seas, sailing out of Miami, going to Bahamas and Key West. So I got there, and then my whole life changed.
Not a bad gig, is it? Your first gig?
So it was. So that's why working in that venue back at home helped me so
Yeah.
much, because it was the same pace as the cruise ship. Everything happening at the same time. I had 5 different acts going on,
Hmm.
and somehow I had to take care of all of them. So at first it was a struggle,
Yeah.
and but after like 2 weeks, a month, I got the hang of it, and then I did it for 6 years.
How long were you on a ship at a time, or the ship
It
each
was
time?
so it was 6 months on board and then 2 months home.
Wow.
So 6 months working every day. By every day, I mean every day. You have no days off.
The
You have
show
no days
must go on, right?
off. Because people are there to have fun.
Enjoy the best time of their life.
So they're not gonna say, "Oh no, today we're not gonna have any shows because that guy."
No,
Like, screw that
go to
guy.
the buffet.
No, but it was awesome. It was amazing. I did it for 6 years.
Was it a difficult job? Like when you look back, like was it something you would never want to do again? Like the actual work day in and day out of work and the
So
lifestyle that it represents?
okay, so it depends a lot on the size of ship you're on,
Hmm.
and the itinerary and the demographics. If you're
Mm-hmm.
on a ship sailing out of Europe, it's probably going to have a lot more older people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what what they do, they get to the port, everybody is off the ship. So when everybody is off the ship, there's not much going on board.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some downtime, right? And then when you have a lot of older people cruising, they don't stay up very late.
Mm-hmm.
So you're done earlier. But then my first ship was out of Miami for the weekend.
It's gonna be
So it
trouble right there.
was just a bunch of lunatics cruising.
They never go to
So
sleep.
so they never go to sleep. So you had things happening the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
So my first contract was my hardest.
Okay.
And then on my third contract, I started in the Caribbean, and then we did a crossing to Europe. And on that ship, I became head sound and light. So I was the supervisor of all the techs on board. And yeah, and then it started to get a little easier. And then on my last two contracts, I got to choose the venue that I worked on the ship. So I went to work on the ice shows because the bigger ships, they have ice rinks and they have ice shows. So I was working on the ice rink, which was always cool, always a little cold, which I like.
Yeah.
And it was easier.
For people listening, would you recommend it for like what after 6 years you left? Was there room for growth for you there, or did you reach the pinnacle of what you could accomplish there?
No, so I had two bosses that they were really pushing for me to be stage and production manager, right?
Fair enough.
But then I started training, and I was like, this is not for me, man. I don't want to deal with drama.
Yeah.
I don't want, because then you're in charge of the cast of the shows in the theater. So I don't want to deal with that drama.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do much paperwork. I want to do sound.
Yeah.
So to me, it didn't. I didn't like it.
There was room for growth. You just didn't like the path that
Yeah,
it would take you.
I was very happy doing what I'm doing because that was my dream, to work with music, with sound.
Yeah.
You know? So that's all I wanted. So, but I also I met my wife on cruise ships.
Did you?
Yeah, she was the singer in the in
This is the foreign wife
yeah,
of the predicted
exactly.
music and foreign bride.
Yeah, so I met her on my first contract. It was my first contract and her first contract. I was maybe 3 months on board, and then the new cast came, right? And we met and we started going out, dating, and then we dated for 6 years, working on ships. But we got to the point is the more we stay on ships, the more it's gonna take for us to start a real life on land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the more you wait, the harder it is, because if you're on a cruise ship, you're just separated from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So we thought it was time, and she's American. She's from New Hampshire.
Okay.
So we decided that the best place for us to come would be New York,
Okay.
right? So we quit ships,
Jump
then
ship.
yeah, and then came
What
to
was
the
your plan? Like, okay, honey, we're gonna finish here. And what were you gonna do? Did she have something to go into? Did you have
no. So she was gonna come here before me, right?
yeah.
So she did. She came here before me. I was gonna do one more contract to save a little bit more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she came to New York. She got an apartment, and then I came to visit. But then when I was here, I was like, you know what? Screw that. Let's get married right now.
I'm not going back on that ship without your hand, at
I'm
least.
not going back. So we stayed here. Then we got married. Nobody knew about it. We didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then that's it. Started the whole green card process.
It wasn't Colorado, but you surely fell in love with New York.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been here before.
Where you were there.
Yeah, I've been here before. Yeah. So that's how I came to the U.S.
That's how you got here.
Very, 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 very long story short. That's how I came to the U.S.
So then how did you start pursuing music full time then? Out
Okay.
off the ship.
Yeah. So I had to wait for my green card. I couldn't
Yep.
work.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I was just doing nothing basically, and it kind of drove me crazy because going from a cruise ship where you don't have a day off to doing nothing. So I would wake up, right? I would go ride my bike, then I would go to the gym, I would come back, take a nap, cook, have lunch, play video games, and it was still 2 p.m. It's like what do I do now? What do I do with the rest of my day?
Mhm.
So then just one day on I was on the internet and I
What year
discovered
was this now? Sorry.
2015.
Okay.
2015. I've discovered this website called Compose, where people they like post their songs or ideas of songs,
Mm-hmm.
then and then so I have this drum and bass. I'm looking for somebody to play guitar or a piano or
Okay.
something, or they're looking for people to mix their songs.
Mm-hmm.
So I started mixing people's songs for free, you know, just just to pass the time,
Yeah.
right? And then I was like, you know what? Maybe this is what I should be doing.
Maybe this is
So,
something. Yeah.
yeah. So I started slowly buying equipment, you know, buying more like plugins, and then they ended up becoming this obsession, and you can stop buying them.
You were
Right?
saying just
So,
one more, honey. Just
oh,
just just one more.
yeah, oh, this is only 200 today. 200. I gotta buy it now. Yeah, and so I started doing that, and so I finally got my green card, the temporary green card,
Yeah.
and I got this job working for a company called The Ride. So The
Okay.
Ride is, if you walk around Manhattan Midtown, you see it every day. It's a huge bus that people sit sideways. So one side is only glass, so people
Mm-hmm.
can see outside, right?
Looking at where they're going.
So people go around seeing Midtown sightseeing, but we
Mhm.
also have performers on the street, and people don't know who they are. So all of a sudden, you're driving on 42nd Street, and then you start hearing the song of 42nd Street, the musical, and then you see a tapper just tapping on the street to the beat of the song. But the tapper works for us.
Mm-hmm.
She has like an in-ear monitor,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a tech on board playing the song for her.
And you're all connected, knowing who when
Yeah,
people are coming. Yes.
yeah. So it was. So I started working there. I worked there for I think 3 years total. I started as a tech on the bus. So and then I was the tech manager, which you stay in the office and you take care of the equipment and the techs on all the buses. So you're like connected with all of them for like this like a messenger system. So you're always talking to them if they had troubles, and troubles happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're you're on, you're on a moving bus, so the equipment is always shaking and stuff. So that was a pretty cool gig. I met a lot of nice people there, and I started working with just like random side gigs. One time I was at Central Park, just walking around, and there was a band doing this Elvis cover, right? and they had three guys working sound. You had one guy setting up the speakers, the other guy on stage, and one guy mixing. And they were just a mess. They were screwing everything up.
It reminded you of you when you first started.
So I saw the
Had sympathy for them.
yeah, but there was a guy. I figured he was the owner because he was sitting by the van that had the name of the that was on the equipment, and he was yelling at the guys. And I say, hey man, whatever you're paying them, you can pay half of that total to me, and I alone, I can do better than all of them together.
That's pretty bold.
But that's what I did on
But it
cruise
was
ships.
true, right? Yeah.
That's what I did on cruise ships. Then it's like, all right. So I started working for this guy for a while.
Did he fire the three guys?
No, he had like a bunch of different things happening.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. I went to see a band playing.
That's pretty bold, though, Ricardo.
Yeah.
That's pretty bold to walk up to the owner and say, "Listen," and you're not smug, you're not arrogant. You're just,
no.
I need a job. I need a job for one, and I can do what these guys are doing, and doesn't matter what they're getting paid. I'll take half. Yeah, that's a bold statement to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and so I started doing that. I went to see a band playing. My wife had a friend in the band, so we went to the venue. We saw the band, and after the show, I went to talk to the sound guy. I said, hey, I do sound too. If you guys ever need somebody to do sound here, I'm your guy. So the guy called me like a week later, 2 weeks later, and then I started working for that guy too. I started working on that venue. So I was working at the bus thing.
Yeah.
But I was also doing all these
side
things
jobs.
around. And then, and I was also doing studio stuff, mixing, then I started like writing a few jingles. My wife got into voiceover, which we still do. And yeah, and one day my boss at the bus thing, the ride, he knew that I really missed mixing a band because at that point I was only working there. And he told me, Stomp, the show Stomp.
Yeah.
They are looking for a new sound guy. So I sent my resume, and then I started working for Stomp. It's a good show, right? So
it's an internationally known show. Yes.
Is this real? Am I working for Stomp? Yeah, I am. So I had to quit the bus thing because I couldn't do it anymore, because Stomp is like 6 days a week, And yeah, so I started working for Stomp, doing the studio thing, and then I went to do the tour with Stomp. So I quit the New York show, and I did the tour, the U.S. Canada tour. And that was crazy too, because that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Because setting up that thing and tearing it down every day is not fun.
Are you guys by bus too?
So bus, plane,
planes, trains, and automobiles.
Everything. But then we had a really hard time, my wife and I, because she stayed alone here in New York the whole, which is not fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the studio was just like taking off too. So like I have to be here. So the tour ended. I wasn't sure if I was going to do the next tour, but before I went for tour, I said, I'll go, but I'll only go if you promise if I have my job here when the tour is over.
Mm-hmm.
And they said yes. So the tour ended. I came back to the show here in New York, and I decided not to do the tour, but sometimes I still go to help out on the tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, so the last New Year's, I went to help on the tour to show the new sound guy, how to do everything. And I was going to go back on tour on May, but it got canceled because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And also March 15th, 16th, I don't remember. That was our last show. So like, obviously every theater closed.
So that's when you stopped working like
Yeah,
many other people.
yeah. And then but at that time we had the studio. It was we couldn't live off the studio, but it was a good side gig, you know.
So was the studio what you're referring to in your own home, or did you
Yeah.
have you're
No,
in?
we live in New York, man. We can't afford to.
No, that's on the top of my head. I'm like, you guys have like you're paying for a studio?
Oh no, come on, man. No, let's be real, huh?
Nice.
And then
So go ahead.
but like I mixed a few records. We have this voiceover business, and sometimes we do songs for clients. So this is all my wife. She's a great singer,
Yeah.
and she does all of. I can't do any voiceover because I have this like thick accent, and I don't think my voice is good anyway. So
Now
I just
listen, you mentioned that to me when we were talking, like because I asked you to do something, and you, or actually for the interview, like, hey, I have a Brazilian accent, and I jokingly replied, the ladies love the Brazilian accent, but
do
your accent is not thick to the point where you need to ever mention that it's a problem.
really. I don't
Not
know.
at all. Not one. Not, I'm an ESL teacher in South Korea, and
Yeah.
this is not against Korea. I've come in contact with many people who are second language, English as their second language, and you have no problem. People would not. People, I know people are gracious enough to overlook what you may have a word or something you don't know, but just throw a Portuguese word or whatever. Just throw out a word. And we'd be like, whoa, look, he speaks another language. Because mind you, and this is a point I think people need to understand, like my dear wife is Korean. And what I appreciate about my dear wife, and I need to remember, she speaks two languages, and you may speak two or three too. Like it's not like you can't speak one. It's
Mm.
you're working on your second or your third, right? And it's really commendable. So never, I mean, you're a bold man. Never let your ability to speak English hinder you, or think that you can't do anything. Because in this conversation, I'm not thinking anything about you being a second language person.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man.
Like
Thank you.
not at all. Like so your voiceover, people would love to hear your voice on a voiceover.
You really, I think I have a really bad voice. I hate hearing myself.
Me too. I don't think there's anyone that likes to hear their voice. I mean, we're all pretty vain, but if you start to like to hear your voice, then I think there's an issue. But no. Your voice is just fine. And I'm sure your wife would probably tell you the same thing,
Yeah, I think she likes my voice.
right? She probably she might want to sing with you sometimes too.
I can't sing, man. I can't.
You never know. So in the meantime, what have you been doing since? And you mentioned something to me. So how did the COVID affect you?
It affected me pretty bad because it put me in the hospital for
So
6 days.
you somehow, I don't know the proper word, were in contact with the COVID-19 and had it for how long?
So I was in the hospital for 6 days, but before that I had symptoms for like 10 days.
So do you know how you would have got it or how that came about?
I I don't know where, but I'll probably say the subway. Because so we stopped working on a Sunday. Sunday was our last show. I don't know, March 15, 16.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then I started having symptoms on the following Friday. So maybe when one of the last days that I was taking the subway,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
And how was your experience with that over those 6 days of?
Oh my God, terrible, horrible. The worst time of my life by far. By far. I really thought I was gonna die. Before I went to the hospital, I thought I was gonna die because I was getting worse every day, worse and worse and worse. But at that time, that was when New York was peaking.
Mm-hmm,
So I would listen. I would like on the news they would say we don't there are no hospital beds anymore. So I would go to bed at night and I couldn't sleep
mm-hmm,
first because I couldn't sleep because my headache, fever, feeling, everything hurting,
mm-hmm.
and I was so stressed and worried that if I needed a hospital,
You had
I,
nowhere
I,
to go.
I had nowhere to go. But so one day it got to the point that like my headache and my fever, it was too much. I couldn't speak. I could barely keep my eyes open. So I FaceTime my brother in Brazil, a doctor, and he said, "You got to go to the hospital right now." So my wife called an ambulance for me. I couldn't go on my own. So that's when I just broke down and started crying. And I told her, yeah, look, I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. So I went to the hospital and it was just a disaster. Like beds everywhere. It was just a sea of beds. And they wouldn't take me because at that point my breathing was still fine. And they were only taking people that couldn't breathe. They didn't even test me. They said, no, you're going home. So the doctor gave me a bunch of drugs and sent me home. Okay, so next day I started getting better. I started getting like my fever went down. The headache got better. I could smell and taste things again. But then my breathing started to get worse. And at first I thought I'm just gonna wait because every other symptom got better. Maybe this is gonna get better too. But it kept getting worse. It got to the point I couldn't stand up to go to the bathroom. That I would start. I couldn't breathe. So my wife got one of those oximeters, the thing you put in your finger to read your oxygen level.
Yes.
She went to a CVS, grabbed one, and it was reading really low. So I called the doctor and said, you got to go back to the hospital right now. So then I went back to the hospital, and then when they saw me and they saw that I couldn't breathe, they took me right away. They brought this.
The day before wasn't good enough. I mean, it's tough, right?
It was actually a few days before. So the first time that I went, it was Saturday, March 28th. I know it was March 28th because that was the day that we were supposed to be celebrating 10 years together. But instead I took an ambulance to the hospital. So, and when I went to the hospital again was Wednesday, so April something. And they took me right away. The woman came with a tube of oxygen, and when she put the mask on me and turned on the oxygen, I just started crying because I could finally breathe.
Finally breathe.
So I stayed there. I stayed the whole night there, but there was no room for me at the hospital, so I just stayed in this lobby area in a really small bed. And yeah, I had double pneumonia, the doctor told me. And so, yeah, I spent the whole night in the corridor, hearing people screaming and agonizing. And the next day, another doctor came and said, we're going to transfer you because there's no room for you here. We're going to transfer you to Albany. So, but Albany is really far from here. How am I going to get there? It's like Albany is the capital of New York, but it's upstate. It's really far from New York City. And they're like, well, it's a 3-hour ride, so it's either going to be by ambulance or chopper. So after the shock, I was like, you know what? This is going to be better for me because I don't want to be in this hospital anymore. It's overcrowded. I'm seeing and hearing all these things that I'll never forget in my life. I don't want to be here anymore. And then I ended up being transferred in this ambulance/bus. So it was like me and I think 7 or 8 other patients. They put us in this bus, but with all the equipment and like beds. So they strapped us in the beds. Like I was strapped on a bed. And there was no room for the oxygen tanks. So they strapped the oxygen tank between my legs. And I almost had a panic attack the whole time because my head was like this far from the ceiling. and there was a woman next to me that she was just coughing nonstop, and she was desperate, and I thought that that woman was gonna die right next to me. Anyway, and it was freezing. It was freezing. So that was April, beginning of April. It was still really cold in New York. So me with double pneumonia, breathing that cold air. So I got there in Albany worse than when I left the hospital in New York. But then I got there, amazing hospital, Albany Medical, amazing hospital. I had a huge room just for me. It was amazing. It was just what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So then I finally did the test and it came back positive. So, and I was still on the oxygen. And then they're like gradually turning down the level of oxygen. And then on the last 2 days, I was breathing on my own again. And then one day the nurse came and said, "Hey, okay, so get dressed because you're leaving." Like, what? That's it? When? She said, in about 15 minutes. I was like happy and like nervous. Like, wait, am I good to go?
Am I okay?
Okay. And then the doctor called me. He didn't even go there because it was so busy.
Yeah.
The doctor called and said, "Hey, you're fine. There's no reason for you to be here anymore. I'm giving you medicine, so you're just gonna keep taking medicine for a few more days, and that's it." So I took an ambulance home, but at this time I was sitting in breathing on my own in the ambulance. So yeah, so I came home April 6th, and yeah, and then I stayed stay like still in quarantine for 2 more weeks, right? Because that's what you have to do. And then I was, you know,
Did this because you thought you were going to die, which people do, so it's not an unrealistic thought, right? Did this give you some, some clarity, some resetting of your priorities? Did it give you um, a new motivation to do whatever it is that you hope to do next, or what you're even doing now?
yeah. So I was I, I was not taking care of myself before I had COVID because my whole life I played sports my whole life until I went to work on ships.
Hmm.
So then my life started changing. Started eating really bad, not exercising as much as I needed. Excuse me. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, now that I have my health again, I'm gonna take care of it really well. So I started eating better, and I'm exercising again now, and I feel great, great.
So what
And
is it you're doing now in terms of work? How are you supporting yourself? Because for you to be, say, a freelancer, independent contractor, or what would you call yourself now in the business, what you're doing, minus the idea of COVID going on, so things are slowed down. Do you
okay,
have a title for yourself?
okay, uh, so my job at Stomp, I'm really lucky because I had a contract. I pay my taxes. I had vacation paid and health insurance. So I am getting unemployment.
Okay, good.
So that helps so much because the studio is, you know, I'm doing a few things, but like musicians right now, they don't have money for anything. I mixed a guy's record. He asked me if it was okay if he gave me a guitar instead of money. It's like, sure,
Yeah.
I'll take a guitar, you know. But so yeah, if it wasn't for this unemployment, because I'm not, the studio is like pretty slow now, and that's why I decided to do this thing online, and that's how we met. I said, look, I can make you an intro song for free. You just credit me, and if one day you think I deserve something, you can pay
Yeah,
me
that's
back.
what I cut out in the beginning, is how I met you. Is you came in a group and just said to 40,000 people, I am willing to do your intros and your outros for free. If something becomes of it, just remember me down the road. But I thought that was a really, because you have a talent, right? And I didn't even know what your talent was, but I clicked on your name, and then you have a website, and then it can show you playing the guitar like nobody's business. And like, this guy, and it's like on the videos, it's metal, right? Heavy metal, and some Metallica, which I listen to, but a little bit like more Iron Maiden and stuff. I'm like, I don't know what way I want my podcast to go, but you have talent, right? Regardless of how you cut it, you have a talent. I'm like, I'm going to give this guy a try. I message you, you message me right back, and you're like, sure. And then you're like, oh, I was inspired 20, 30 minutes later, and you sent me a song. I'm like, who is this guy?
Right. I think I did like five intros already for
That.
people. Yeah. But some people, man, they just some people, I just cut them because like, you know what, you don't deserve this. People
Mm-hmm.
like bossing me around, say, hey, you don't get to boss me around, man. I'm doing you a favor. You don't.
Imagine?
I'm doing it on my terms, not your
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Absolutely.
I need this song this day, and then they say, hey man, I'm gonna get to your song when I get to your song. If you can't wait, fine. Just go look somewhere else.
Where they're giving it for free,
Yeah,
which is nowhere.
yeah, and some people I'll like send a song. No, too bluesy. That's it. Like, hey man, thanks, but that's not really what I'm looking. No, nothing. It was just like my boss telling me, do it again. You know?
I couldn't have been happier with what you sent, and it was completely different than what I thought, just based because I didn't know that you did what you do. I didn't know you had like sound machines and all of that other sort of thing. I thought you were gonna send me a riff from your electric guitar, and I'm like, I'm gonna be fine with that, no matter what he sends me. And you send me this, like, to me, like a beautiful intro. I messed it up by putting my voice over it, but it's a really good song, and I'm like, wow, this guy got skills. So then I said it to other people, and anyone, where is it that people could find you, just since we're talking about your work? How can people find you if they want
People
to?
can go to Tidal Wave Studios.
You got some merch. Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
name. Tidal Wave Studios.
Or go to, or can email me at ricardo@tidalwavestudios.com.
So what is it you're willing to do for people? I mean, obviously paid, I'll say that. Like, you're doing things for money as well.
Yeah.
But what is it
So
are you able to do with
okay.
your
So
skills,
if
talents, and machinery?
I mix songs, edit, mix, and master music, podcast, voiceover. If you need a jingle, I write jingles. If you need an intro for your podcast, I write original music. If you need a voiceover recorded, my wife, she's an awesome voiceover actress
And
or actor.
Ricardo will do some voiceovers too.
I won't. Unless you want to tank your business, you don't hire me to say anything. And she's also an awesome singer, So we do songs for a bunch of clients. And yeah,
With your experience that you have now, what would you say is the most difficult part of your job that you want people to understand about what it's like to be you as a sound musician, an
so
artist?
okay, so to me, the hardest thing is sometimes I need to write a jingle or like a song, like an intro music for a podcast. And I sit here, I try the guitar, I play stuff on my keyboard, and nothing's coming out. You know, so no, this is not good. This is because sometimes I have a song in my head, and it sounds amazing, but then you play it, it sounds like crap. Nothing fits together, But then at the same time, there's people counting on you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's the hardest thing when when you just have no inspiration, but you have a deadline.
What is one of the joys that you get out of doing what you do, especially comparing? I mean, I just feel like I got to open up a book of your life and hear where you've started, where you've come from. You've traveled around the world,
I
and
actually been to Korea a few times.
they're quite talented in the music that they love as well. What is a joy that you take away from, maybe it's just a daily thing or one instant in particular that you got from your experience?
I really love when I hear my music in someone's work. Like when I hear your intro, I love it. I love it. We did a few songs for a kids musical, and they sent us the videos of our songs being sung by people that I never met before in a room full of other people and everybody clapping. It's just amazing. We did a Christmas every year. We do a Christmas song, my wife and I, because she's obsessed with Christmas. And so one day a friend sent us a message saying that our song was being played at this coffee shop in New York, this random coffee shop that we don't know anybody there, and it was just being played. And they used one of our Christmas songs for a curtain call in some city.
Mm-hmm.
So you see all the actors coming to like take a bow, and now everybody clapping to the beat of the song that I
Your
made.
song,
It's pretty amazing.
Ricardo. And you think, even with COVID and all that, how has work brought you through life? I mean, you, from your ad agency to all the other places that you worked, and you went into the linen industry and in business and on
Unbelievable.
ships for, not 6 days a week, but 7 days a week.
Yeah, 7 days.
How has worked in a sort of a way, an encouraging way to people who go through similar things, but not musical, right? It's going from job to job and trying to find their way. And I think it's commendable that you had the ability to live off of your parents more if you wanted to, but you said, no, I'm gonna make my own way. And then you
Yeah,
were bold enough to learn something, at high school, guitar, get into music, do something completely different. And then you found you're in a supervisory role. Then you're on a ship traveling around the world. Then they offer you a dream job to some people.
yeah.
And then you find a wife, you move to another country, and you see some people working and you say, hey, I could do that job, but only better. Then you say, listen, I'm going to work with one of the biggest musical shows in America or on earth with Stomp, and still be with them and start your own music company. How has work brought you through life? How can you attribute or appreciate the value of work in your life?
So I can say that my work changed my life. Like I traveled the world and met my wife because of work. You know, and I'm very fortunate to do what I love. I know that a lot of people can do that, but you you have to do something that brings you joy, even if it's not on your regular job.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do something on the side. You can't just work, go home, eat, sleep, wake up, and go. You can't. You just you're like building your coffin doing that. You gotta do something that brings you joy. Otherwise, it's not gonna get better. It's only gonna get worse. So yeah, when I had jobs that I hated, I was fortunate enough to have my parents. But if I didn't have my parents, I would have just keep doing it, and I would just keep playing guitar on the side to keep me sane. You know what I mean?
Do you have any plan for like a band, or start making your own CD or your own album, I guess they would say now?
Okay,
Do you
so
do you plan on pursuing music as your a
I,
source of
I
income?
I was never really a band person because I don't like to be seen. So I don't like being on stage.
You
I,
said
I
that to me, but I see you in your video and you're pretty good. And as I said to you, you look like if you could eat your strings, you would. But you're like trying to hide from the camera. And you said you were nervous here, but you've done an amazing job. And I couldn't see with your talent. You don't have to get up and speak if you don't want to, but you could. But with your talent, but carry on, continue. I think
so
good.
I don't even remember what. Oh yeah, so I don't like people looking at me. I hate being the center of attention. So I don't think I'll ever have a band. And I thought about writing a record,
Mm-hmm.
especially now that I'm home pretty much all the time. But I'm still trying to figure out what kind of record it's going to be. You know, I would like to write like a concept album which has one theme on like the same theme on every song. You know what I mean? But
The journey.
it will be only instrumental. It wouldn't have any vocals on it because I can't sing, and my wife, she doesn't really like the music that I like. She likes Broadway stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I like heavy metals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suggest, and the name of the website that you have where you're playing is what?
So I don't really have a website.
YouTube channel, yeah.
I have this YouTube channel. It's a Ricardo Camargo guitar. It's the most bland name possible, but it's what it is. It's me playing guitar.
And I strongly recommend everyone to.
Usually I do a bunch of covers. I haven't done in a while, but I need to learn some new songs.
So in closing, Ricardo, why do you work?
Why do I work?
Why do you work?
Man, I never thought about that. Let me see. Well, I work because not necessarily in this order, right?
Yeah. Mm.
You need money, obviously,
Yeah.
right? You need money, and I feel like you need to do something useful with your life. Does that make sense? You need,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you need to do something. You can't stay home the whole day watching TV. At least for me,
No, being
I'm doing this.
productive. Yeah.
I'm doing this now, and I hate it.
Mm.
And I was always complaining that I had no time off. Now I have all the time off.
Here you go.
Sometimes sometimes I would go for over a month without a day off because I was on Stomp 6 days a week and I had Mondays off. But then Monday, oh, we need to record a song for a client. I need to mix something, so I would end up working Monday, you know, and that would happen several Mondays. So I'll go like over a month without a day off. But now I was like, damn, man, over 4 months off now. And honestly, probably the theater won't open again this year. I don't know. Who knows when it's going to reopen?
You work because of the money. You work because you think it's good to be productive. And
I feel like you need to somehow contribute to the society that you live in. You know, maybe where I work is kind of really superficial to some people. Like, oh, but you're not really contributing if you're working on a theater. People don't need to see a show. People need, what I mean. It's not non-essential.
yeah,
That's
no,
what.
I know exactly what you mean. There are lots of people that have different ways of looking at the world,
Yeah,
and and we can't change those, but music is essential to life.
yeah, and honestly, music changed my whole life. If I didn't like music, I probably wouldn't start playing any instruments because I wouldn't have anything that I wanted to play. You know, But all I wanted to do was play Metallica songs, you know, and that's what I did.
And this is where it's brought you.
Yeah,
Now you're in
and
New York with a studio.
yeah, and working for Stomp.
Right? That's pretty good, Ricardo.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty good.
it's funny because the first time that I came here, when I went to Winter Park, Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
I took a plane to Denver. So it was my first time in the US ever. And I went to Burger King because we didn't have Burger King in Brazil. So it was my first time having a Whopper ever in my life. And I remember sitting at the airport eating Burger King, eating a Whopper, and thinking, what's gonna happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's gonna happen? I was like, am I gonna like this place? Am I gonna stay here forever? Am I gonna go somewhere else? You know, I was like excited and scared and everything. So then, almost 20 years later, I was touring with Stomp, and we played Denver, and we flew to Denver airport, and I went to the same Burger King, and I had
I
a
need a
Whopper.
Whopper. Isn't that funny?
It was so weird,
Surreal. Yeah.
surreal. I was like, I can't believe I'm back here after all these years in the same place, eating the same sandwich.
You couldn't have planned it out.
Couldn't have planned it out.
That's great, Ricardo. I appreciate it. I hope people go and find you and contact you. And I hope you all the best. And I will be in touch with you about my intro, my outro, and hopefully more to come. Thank you very much, Ricardo Camargo. You are a gentleman, and I appreciate this time.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. It was great to tell my story.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Why We Work with Brian V. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share with others so they too can be encouraged in their work. I hope that you have yourself a productive yet joyful day in your work.